Joining us on the webinar this evening is Ryan Heisey, Assistant Men's and Women's Golf Coach at Florida State University. Now in his third season with the No.1s, Ryan holds the unique position of helping coach both highly ranked men's and women's programs at the same university. He began his college golf coaching career in 2018, and his influence at each stop along the way has been highly impactful. Ryan, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, John. Yeah, doing great. It's not really the off season with recruiting, but it's good. Always good to talk.
If you will, Coach, share with us the journey from professional golfer and successful professional golfer to professional college coach.
It's never a straight line, that journey. How I got here is pretty. I think you hear it all the time. If you can't quite make it on the big tour, you find your passion in other ways. And I was lucky enough that after 5 or 6 years of trying to play professionally and competing around the world, that my passion switched to coaching. I always knew that I had it kind of in my DNA to help others and to coach. And I even knew that as I was maybe a junior or senior in college on my college team at UNC Greensboro. I always felt like it was my responsibility to help some of the younger guys, less experienced players on the team, even if they were better than I was talent-wise. I still think there's so much, there's so many things to learn. And one day I was I was at Q school. I was laying in bed after probably a pretty mediocre 72 and thought to myself, I think I'm done playing. I want to coach. And don't get me wrong, I still love playing. But I just kind of thought I always had that passion to coach. And it's been so much fun and rewarding the last few years coaching these players. They're so daggone good. And they work so hard. And we're in a unique position where there's 5 of them we're trying to coach that week. So each one has a different game plan or different strengths and weaknesses. It's just been a great journey so far. And obviously being at Florida State, it's a blessing.
Well, Ryan, I certainly know that you know what good looks like because you're coaching, and I believe I'm correct in this, for the first time that we can find. You're coaching the #1 male amateur in the world, Luke Clanton, along with the #1 female amateur in the world, Lottie Woad, and the two of them at the same university. I don't believe that's ever happened that we can find. So what is that like?
I better bring my A game every day as a coach. It's pretty neat. The way our facility is, our building is set up is our offices are on one side of the hallway and the locker room's on the other side. So every day, I had Lottie Woad coming in my office, grabbing a TrackMan this morning. I had Luke Clanton, asking me if I can go work on some putting drills with him. It's just, it's more of a privilege. I don't think they understand how much fun we have and how unique each one of them, each one of those players are. It is truly, sometimes you're like, that is really both of them on the driving range or down the hallway, eating lunch and cramming for an exam that they probably should have been studying more for and practicing less. But then again, that's why they're #1 in the world. But it's so much fun. Not only they're great players, but they're just great to be around.
Well, let's move on let's talk about Flipped. What is it? Flipped is an AI-driven performance app that's used by the best college programs and players. 2 examples we just mentioned. It tracks your entire game, every golf shot on the course and every shot in your practice sessions. The result is a totally data-driven, objective view of your entire game.
Coming to college, it's really the first time that you have time to yourself. And to become a great player, you have to use that time in the proper way. It's easy to kind of get lost out there, and our facility is incredible, but our job as coaches is to kind of point you in the right direction and utilize your time best you can. You want to be out there. You want to have precise practice. That's what we call it precise practice. practice with intent. And again, this can change. Players change. What we're working on from a monthly standpoint, from a semester standpoint, or a weekly standpoint, trying to get ready for an event changes. So being able to have a plan, being able to have an understanding of what works, what doesn't work for each player is monumental. Because the margins are so slim to being, maybe just outside of our lineup, just inside of our lineup, or a constant, all conference player or all American player. So, kind of having a map, a roadmap to getting better is basically what this is. Each individual player can tailor their practice too, but as coaches, we can look at trends. And it's funny, we talk about it all the time, is we'll look at their stats and we'll set up practice for them based on this, and they don't even know that we've done that. They just think, oh, coach set up a wedge-heavy practice today, or a speed putting concentrated practice today, where in reality, no, we've noticed the trends that, 4 or 5 of our players are struggling in this area, and, we want to address that.
Well, you've touched on your players. Let's talk to our audience a little bit about your journey with Clipped and your experience with its impact on your game, but also on your players and their performance.
So, introduced a few years ago, we were lucky enough to have both programs join, and right away, it really allowed us to just from a viewing standpoint, to be able to look at something and comprehend it in a way, and talk to our players, about each part of their games, and have them be able to understand what they're looking at. So right away when we started using it, I knew it was going to be great because of the convenience and just how it looks, how it's presented on a screen. Screen is everything these days. So how it looks is half the battle. And then being able to comprehend it in a quick, easy way. Our meetings with our players are, they're efficient. It always goes hand in hand of what we're seeing, what they're feeling, and what the stats bear out. So it's been a great added benefit for us to have Clipped.
Do you find that Clipped has helped build confidence in your players?
100%. We watch our players practice and play a lot. And our eyes tell us a lot of things. They have feedback, obviously, but when they can look at something else, something that's not their coach, that's not their mom and dad telling them that they're doing something good or bad. Our players, we say it all the time, you guys are your harshest critics. So just because you hit a couple poor shots doesn't mean that you're a horrible wedge player. Because I'm looking at your stats and your proximity to the hole is actually better now than it was last semester. So all the work you've been putting in is bearing fruit. Confidence is something that everyone talks about. It is so critical in this game. Trust me, the reason Luke Clanton's the #1 ranked amateur in the world, yes, he's very talented, but that kid has more confidence in his pinky than I ever had in my career. So, being able to have something else that just gives you that added boost, like, hey, the practice I'm putting in is working. I see the stats. Now it's actually, transferring from there to the golf course. Can't have too much confidence. That's not anything you can ever have too much of.
Well, your players are seeing that the result is the validation of their work. So that's something we're hearing all the time from coaches. Well, Clipped identifies in your game the elements that most impact your ability to score. It helps coaches like Ryan to create these personalized practice plans.
Again, it goes back to, it's not all about, we don't all just talk about, okay, what areas can you get better at? What areas are you really good at? And if we can take some of the time that you put into those areas, we can, put them in towards the areas where, yeah, you can pick up a shot here or a shot there. We try to make sure that we don't stress it too much when we see, an inefficiency, but again, it's got to be addressed. And, more times than not, the data does not lie. And the player, if they're smart enough and if they take the time to analyze and really delve into clipped and the data, they'll understand. They understand quickly, and they'll say, "Yeah, coach, I know." And then we come up with a plan.
So, Ryan, along the way with clip, has there been an example that comes to mind that one of your players that in going through the data and then taking that additional time to put more focus on that part of their game? Is there an example that comes to mind of a player that this was extremely helpful and the result showed it?
I would say they have a player. He's a senior this year, Gray Albright from Ocala. Always kind of a gritty, gutty player. Can putt it really well. Approach shots iron play was probably his strong suit, along with putting, but just kind of was inconsistent with the driver, and then kind of one dimensional around the greens. And specifically with the driver, it was the right miss. And we would take the data. We went out on the golf course and basically spent a lot of time on holes that he didn't like the miss. So we made sure that he could, even just in practice or in qualifying, he could get on the golf course and hit driver with confidence. Miss got less and less. Right shot got less and less. And then around the greens, it wasn't that his quality of shot around the greens was pretty, close to tour average, but it was the more basic routine shots that were below. So that's something that he, prioritized, and man, he spent about a good year and a half trying to, add a couple shots around the green, become more creative. And last year he was an All-American. So obviously he put in the work, he put in the time. We came up with a good plan. And he already had the skills, he had the mindset. It was just kind of, all right, what exactly is it going to take to, to kind of get him to the next level? And you could just see over time this graph change, right? The number got smaller and smaller and smaller, and his scores got lower and lower and lower.
So, we've talked a lot so far about what clip does, the result it provides. Well, virtually everybody that's seeing clip for the first time, I'm sure, are all asking the same question. How do we get to this? How does clip work? How do you get there? So let me start with sharing that college golf coaches across the country ask clip to create an easier to use process for entering golf rounds data and practice results for their players. This feature allows players after a round to use their phone to enter every golf shot result for 18 holes in 5 to 7 minutes. There's an enhanced model that I know your players use, Coach, that provides a much more in-depth entry on their part that maybe takes 10 to 12 minutes, something like that. Again, it's another part of clip that's become wildly popular. College golfers are enjoying the visual of what they see. They enjoy putting their rounds of golf in. So let me ask you, Coach, please speak to the way your players have embraced not just clipped, but clip capture.
After the round, we're all sitting around dinner, and they're going through they're pulling out their yardage book, and they have the yardage book in the left hand and the phone in the right, and they're going through it. And, like you said, 10, 15 minutes per entry per round, and they're done. And then, to your point, they're comparing what was your best shot of the day? What was your highest shot quality shot? How did you do that on that hole? So when they're all doing it, you kind of just sit around and chuckle, because as coaches, it is all about, getting information, but it is comical sometimes and entertaining.
But when you get somebody that comes on campus and part of your program, how long does it typically take you to ingrain good stats collecting habits into your athletes?
For most of them, it's pretty it's pretty easy. Whether it's myself or one of their teammates or both, running them through this round entry for the first time, second time, they get the hang of it pretty quickly. And for our players that are incoming, it's kind of just what we know how important it is, so they understand how important it is. So there's really not a whole lot of, coach, why do I have to do this? Or coach, I don't think. No, they understand how important it is, and they see the results from that right away. So again, looking back, I wish I had something like clicked. There are levels to keeping stats. Do I expect a 12, 13-year-old to keep the stats that Luke Clanton does, or Gray Albright or Carton? No, I don't. But having stats, being able to actually quantify something that you're doing, if you're putting this much time into your practice, if this is something that you really want to do and invest all this time and effort, and you love golf and you continually want to get better and play in college, and see where that takes you after that. Collecting stats and having that data is instrumental in your improvement.
How does the ability for a prospect to share data impact early in the recruiting process?
Well, I would say it shows dedication. It shows how serious you are about your game and improving, getting better. It's something that we can look at, starting from, when we first start recruit you, or you get on our radar, to, yes, we're going to watch you play, but if we can see actual data like we do with our players, that, hey, when they were 15 years old, this is how they putted, this is how they drove it. Now, a year later, look at how much they've improved. Because in recruiting, yes, you're recruiting the current player, but you're also trying to project, which is almost impossible. But again, it goes back to, you can't have too much you can't have too much data, you can't have too much information. So we just had 6 visits in the last 2.5 weeks, and multiple times on each visit, we talked stats. We talked, what's important to them in the stat collecting. We asked, obviously, what system they use. They ask us how we collect our data, how we use it for our practice, for our preparation. So asking someone how they keep stats, or if they keep stats, is almost asking them, hey, do you practice your pitching? Do you practice your bunker play? It's just, nowadays at this elite level, if you're not doing it, then it's, I think you're a little behind. Everyone has the same goal here, is we want our players to get as good as they want to be. And we implement so many different techniques, so many different ways to improve our players. And obviously this is a big part of how we think we're going to get the best out of our players and out of our program. So again, I can't stress enough how important and essential keeping your stats, tracking that, better understanding your own game. It can open your eyes and improve your game like you can't believe.